It was my manager who lived on site, and she just said, Jill, it's on fire, it's on fire. And I live like less than 5 minutes from the property. And so I just said, I've had fires at properties before. And so I wasn't getting too worked up about it. And I said, make sure everybody's out of the building. We'll get this handled. It's not a big deal. Threw on some street clothes, and by the time I got there, it was a way bigger fire than I had thought. Flames were pouring out of the windows. People were jumping from the third story. It was a big deal. And so it shut the whole property down.
Welcome to the Rise, Shine, and Redefine podcast, where we explore personal growth, relationships, and transformative mindsets. I'm Caryn Meininger, your guide and ally on this journey. Imagine a space where your true beauty shines, where every challenge is a step toward your best self, and where family and personal development intertwine. As your BFF for Mindset Mastery, I'm here to share insight and laughter, to guide you through the highs and lows, and to celebrate your journey towards authenticity and fulfillment. Join us as we redefine what it means to live beautifully, love our journey, and embrace our true selves. Let's rise, shine, and redefine together.
Welcome to the Rise, Shine, and Redefine podcast. We have an extraordinary guest with us today. She's a mother of 6, a successful real estate broker, and an adventurous spirit who has turned countless challenges into triumphs. Please welcome Jill Sarcone.
Yay!
Welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. And you're a mom of 6. Holy shit. Like, please tell me your ways because I can barely survive with one.
Oh, you know what? They're easier in numbers, genuinely. And all the kids are fairly close in age. And so it keeps things pretty, they're kind of built-in friends for each other. But yeah, they are 10, 12, 13, 15, 16, and 19. So yeah.
It's much easier to do that in order, right? Like, you're like, okay, let me do age order.
Got it. And they all have birthdays that are pretty close to each other. So I have to think about when they're born and how old they are.
I love that. And so how many are boys and how many are girls?
So we have 4 girls and 2 boys.
Okay. Okay. And do they all get along? Do they make your life easier, or is it you never know what you're going to get each day?
They are, I'm going to knock on wood when I say this, we're pretty blessed. They are very easy, self-sufficient kids that, so far we haven't really had to get on anybody for grades or behavior or anything like that. Like they just, it's different. Like our 15 and 16-year-old, one of them likes to drive, one of them refuses to drive. Our 19-year-old didn't want to get her license until she was a little bit older. They just don't want to drive. They don't want to do the things that we used to do when we were that age. But yeah, they're a pretty good group of kids. So
Yeah, well, now we have like Uber and we have other ways to get around, where I feel like when we were growing up, it was like, oh, if you wanted to go somewhere, you needed a car.
100%. So I'm their Uber now.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so you've owned over 100 single family homes.
I have.
Including hotels, commercial spaces, bars. Okay, if somebody wanted to get into real estate and like as a busy mom and like get into real estate, what drew you into real estate? And then if you could kind of give a tip on how to get into real estate for maybe somebody listening who would love to kind of have a passive income or maybe change their career. What how did you get into it, and what are some tips to kind of get into it?
So my dad was a real estate broker, and I never in a million years thought I would get into real estate. I was moving from Boston back to San Diego, and I stopped in Iowa on my way to see my family. And I had been traveling for quite some time, and my dad was like, just stay put and get some money under your belt and let's buy a house. And it was when the market was really good to flip houses. And so I stayed, and we, I think at the time so this was like 20 years ago, the house was maybe $50,000. And I think we put like 25,000 into it, but he made me do all of the work on my first flip. So like I learned how to like do plumbing and like solder, pipes together and set toilets and lay tile floors and hang ceiling fans and just stuff that honestly is so practical that everybody should know how to, do that kind of stuff. But got this house all remodeled, turned it from a 2 bedroom into a 3 bedroom. So we increased the value that way. And when I sold it, I was 24 years old at the time. And that was the most amount of money I had ever made in my whole entire life. And I had fun doing it with my dad. I had fun, learning all that new stuff. And it just, so I wanted to do, another one and then another one. And it just slowly grew into a real estate portfolio. We started off flipping, but then when the market changed, all the financing changed for people and it was harder for people to get loans. And so we always had a plan A, plan B, and plan C. Plan A was to flip it. Plan B was to rent it. And plan C was I was going to move into it and buy. And we only had to do that once, but so the flipping turned into owning a bunch of rental properties, and then then that turned into, it's kind of like Monopoly. All the single family homes turned into apartments, which turned into hotels and motels and storage units and bars and
Oh
everything.
my God, I love that analogy. Like Monopoly. So on your first investment and your first flip, how much money did you end up making off of it?
We made $21,433.
Ooh, okay. And so what did you do with that profit? Did you reinvest and that's when you reinvested into another? Or what did you do with that profit?
Well, so, and this is a whole nother story, but I was able to buy not all, I would say probably 95 of my single family homes without putting any money into it, just on financing it creatively. So I took that money that I made with that first flip and I paid off all of the credit card debt I had racked up, put some in a savings account. I bought my first vehicle and that was it. It was like the first time I had kind of felt comfortable with money in my life. And yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So, okay, wait, I want to back up. So, okay, I want to get into real estate. I don't have any money. And you just mentioned there's creative ways that you can finance to get into it. What's a tip that you might have for our listeners of, okay, I really, really want to get into real estate, whether it's a primary home, whether it's an investment property, whatever it may be. What are some creative ways that people can start using financing to their advantage without being so much money out of pocket?
Well, the best advice my dad ever gave me was to be nice to bankers. So,
I love that.
but just create the relationships. I use all local banks. I don't do any, like I don't use the bigger banks. And the way you can borrow money changes all the time. So when I got into the industry, you used to be able to borrow 80% of either appraised as finished value or the assessed value of the property. And so, you know, for easy numbers, let's just say that this property, once I was done remodeling it, was going to appraise for $100,000. I knew I could buy the property for 50,000. I would get $30,000 to fix it up, and I would be at my 80% threshold, and I would have no money into the deal myself. They've changed that a little bit now. And so what I've done is I've utilized the equity in some of my, I've utilized the equity in some of my properties to establish a line of credit. I also, what one of the investments I have is with a cash value life insurance policy that the bank has given me a line of credit off of that cash value. And so now I'll go buy these properties for cash, remodel them with my own cash, and then I go put the loan on it afterwards and get all my money back.
Oh, this is great tips. I'm going to use this because I'm looking to buy another investment property. Also, I don't necessarily know where yet, but it's on the it's on the agenda. I mean, this is great. So you built up this real estate portfolio. You have these hotels, you have these homes, you've flipped, you've done all the things, and then there's this fire,
Yes.
right? What you had a fire on one of your was it your hotel?
Yep, there was a local 142 unit hotel, had a bar in it, a restaurant in it, swimming pool. Like it was a good sized property. And I got a call, gosh, it would have been January 4th in the middle of the night. And I almost always sleep with my phone on silent. For some reason, I had it on that night. And it was my manager who lived on site. And she just said, Jill, it's on fire. It's on fire. And I live like less than 5 minutes from the property. And so I just said, I've had fires at properties before. And so they like, I wasn't getting too worked up about it. And I said, make sure everybody's out of the building. We'll get this handled. It's not a big deal. Threw on some street clothes. And by the time I got there, it was a way bigger fire than I had thought. Flames were pouring out of the windows. People were jumping from the third story. It was a big deal, and so it ultimately shut the whole property down. And in order to rebuild the property, we would have had to have brought it up to current code, which means sprinkled the building, done fire panels in each building, and it just financially didn't make sense. So we ended up tearing the property down.
Oh my goodness. And so this fire happens, and do you tell your kids about it?
Oh yeah, yeah, it was all over the news, so it was kind of hard.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, so you're managing your own disappointment and your own frustration and I'm assuming panic. What how are you able to keep yourself together in that circumstance and then also keep your kids calm in that circumstance?
I I get more upset by tenant issues than I do by big issues like that. And so there was nothing I could do about the fire. It was yeah, I mean, we could do was keep fingers crossed that the insurance company was going to cover it. It was that big of a loss. And so I just continued on daily. And the building was 98% occupied when the fire happened. So we had to find all of those people new homes. Like that was the most stressful part about it, was trying to relocate these people. All of these people wanted back in to get their property, but it was so dangerous for them to be in there that we couldn't let them in. I mean, we had some pretty, like we had one woman who was staying with us whose daughter had passed away and had been cremated, and she had the ashes that she was going to be spreading in the room the night of the fire. And she wanted back in to get those, and the fire department wouldn't let anybody go back in there. And so it was just, we're trying to sneak in and get significant items like that for people. Like people really have everything they own is in these rooms, because it was an extended stay hotel. And so that was the hardest part, was seeing what the fire did to other people.
Yeah, I mean that's huge devastation and hopefully nobody got hurt. Did anyone get hurt?
So very very minor injuries. So like when they jumped out the windows, like they had stitches, or there were a couple broken legs, things like that, but everybody got out safely. We lost a few. Some people had some pets in there that got lost, but for the most part we were pretty darn lucky.
Yeah, that I don't even have words. That is so insane, and I'm just really curious, like as a mom, and this stress, and you're handling all these things, but I'm sure you also need to be present for your kids. Like, how did you balance all of getting them new homes, like figuring it out, managing their emotions, and then also being present with your kids? Like, how did you like? Please tell me your ways because.
It was, for the first probably month after the fire, I probably was not as present as I needed to be with the kids. I was working way longer hours and whatnot. But I used it as a learning lesson. I'm like, kids, we don't play with fire. We don't leave candles burning. They never officially determined the cause of the fire, but that's, and everything I do in real estate, I try and use as like a learning lesson for the kids. Guys, you had your smoke, like, this is why we have smoke detectors. This is why you do things like that. So I don't mind I'm always on my phone. I home office, and when I'm picking the kids up from school, I'm still on business calls, but I'm able to pick my kids up from school instead of them having to take the bus or walk home or something. And that's just one of the things that has to happen in order for me to have a flexible schedule like that. And so everything that happens, I just try and use kind of as a learning lesson with them.
Yeah, I think that's great. I just noticed when I'm working all the time too, like sometimes, I mean, I have a 6-year-old, so it's like you need to get the work done, but then you also want to show up for your family. And it's finding this like work-life balance where it's like, well, how can I do both and be like 5 people at the same time?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's very hard. I feel like I wish I could clone myself sometimes, and yeah, no, I get busier than I would like to be a lot, and I have to remind myself to just stop, and even if it's 5 minutes, if I'm spending 5 quality minutes sitting there talking to the kids, that's better than 2 hours with them where I'm on my phone or I'm doing something. Like I just you got to dedicate just little bits of time. And
I 1,000% agree. Like 5 minutes of full presence is better than 2 hours of just being there but not being present. And I incorporate something called PNP time with my son, which is play no phone. So
okay.
it's like phone has to go away. It's 15 minutes and that's it. And that's really all he needs is just, hey, my mom is present for me right now,
Yeah, I love.
and they remember that, and it's just something that I incorporate. I can take 15 minutes out of my day to be fully present,
Yep, I love.
and it's just kinda works, and now I only have 1, so dividing 15 minutes with 6 kids turns into over an hour or 2, but yeah, no, I just being a mompreneur and balancing it all and trying to build and trying to do all the things can be really, really overwhelming. And just it sounds like you kind of have a system in place for being able to manage all of it.
Yeah, yeah. I get up at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and
Oh
I
God.
do because that's the only time of the day where I can return emails, respond to everything without my phone blowing up, and or anybody else in the house being awake, and so I get a lot done. But again, I finish my day a little bit earlier because I get my kids from school, I take them to their sports, I yeah, I just put in a few more hours every day.
Yeah, but I really feel a lot of joy and passion in all of it. Like you're with your kids, you're with your work, and you seem to be lit up. Like your energy on this podcast, if you guys watch it on YouTube, you'll see it's just there's like an energy about you that feels alive.
You're very.
And I love that you're able to do all the things with, and I'm sure there's a lot of overwhelm and burnout at points, but at the end of the day, it sounds like you're really doing what you love.
I do love what I do. I do, and I find plenty of fun time to get away with my kids. So I don't just work all the time. I yeah, just have to balance.
Yeah. Yeah, but I there so tell me about there was a moment where you were giving it all up. You were selling all of your real estate, you were done, you were over it. Tell me a little bit more about that and a little bit more about your dad.
Yeah, so my dad was my business partner, and we, did pretty much everything together with the properties, and then he passed away in 2014. And so I then bought the portfolio for because it got his part got left to my mom. I bought the portfolio from my mom because she didn't want anything to do with it, and I was managing it anyway. And so I just at that point I had, I think, 75 single families. There were the four hotel motels, and my mom again she wanted to sell, and so I wasn't having as much fun doing the real estate as I was when my dad was alive. I didn't have anybody to, like when something good happened, I didn't have anybody to pick up the phone and share that success with, or if something, negative happened, I couldn't just call my dad and say, oh my gosh, I'm so frustrated. A tenant did this today, or, the city rental inspection didn't go well. I didn't like, I was just kind of on my own. It wasn't as fun to buy properties anymore because there was nobody to share, the art of the deal with. And so when my mom started talking about wanting to get out, I said, you know what, we decided to list the hotels, motels, and then I listed my single family portfolio. And I wasn't going to let somebody just kind of cherry pick off one or two. I said somebody's got to buy the whole portfolio, or I'm not doing it. And it's everything sold. I didn't think it would, but somebody bought it all. And I then told myself I was never going to own anything that had plumbing in it. or a because I just didn't want to deal with people anymore. I really was like down and out because I just I had loved real estate so much, and then it just wasn't fun for me. So I decided I was going to try and buy a different type of property. So I bought some storage units, like some dry storage and some boat and RV storage. And after about a year and a half, I was so bored out of my mind because they didn't need any work that I
That's
decided,
my kind of property. I want that.
well,
Give me the property I don't have to do any work on.
I love it, but I didn't have any, like, I think I found out about myself. I need interaction with people. And so I was not interacting with anybody. All that would go wrong was somebody would forget their gate code and they might call me, or the gate would break and I knew how to go fix it. So I'd drive out there and like I wasn't working with contractors. I wasn't doing anything. And so yeah, I really wasn't happy with what I was doing real estate wise. And then to kind of bring myself out of that funk, my daughter had her bat mitzvah, and you typically get a decent chunk of money when you have a bar bat mitzvah from other people. And I told her if she could, save X amount of dollars, I would help her buy a single family house as a rental property. And then when she turned 18, I would sign it over to her and she could either sell it and, take the money and go to college. She could take the money and travel. She could keep the property as a rental property. She could do, whatever she wanted with it. And I just saw how much fun she was having with that it was like, it just kind of brought me back to life with real estate. And so then I started buying stuff up again.
Oh my gosh. I like want to cry. I'm just like, oh, what a proud
Yeah.
mama moment to just see your daughter want to kind of like step in your shoes, and what an amazing role model you are. Like she saw that you were able to do it. She saw the value in it, and then now here she is at 13 years old. Yeah, let's buy property. I mean, that's incredible. And so how old is she now?
She's 16.
Okay, so she's got 2 more years before you sign it over to her.
Yeah. Well, and so I sold it to her on a contract, right? So like
Okay.
so she's technically paying for it right now, on paper. She's too young to actually own it. But when she turns 18, I'm going to send her into the bank to talk to a banker, and she's going to have equity in it already. She will have been on time with all of her mortgage payments. She'll be able to prove that she's, kept the city rental certificate and been able to get the tenants. And, when there's a vacancy, she goes and cleans it. And so it's all around a really good lesson. It cash flows every month, but I don't let her take any of the cash flow. I make her put it into a savings account in case there's a repair that needs done to the property. So she'll have
Oh,
a pot of money also at the end to if something happens.
I mean, what an incredible life lesson. Like in reality, like you don't learn that in school.
No.
I
Oh yeah.
mean, this is like real life. She's 13, getting a property, learning how to manage it, learning how to take care of it, learning how to make payments on time. I mean, I barely learned how to do that when I got to college. I was like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
have to pay for things."
I
And to be prepared for life in that way is so valuable. She's going to be so far beyond everybody else on just living life and having those life skills, which I don't think we really teach our kids. And that's something I'm hoping to help moms with too is hey, start teaching them life skills now while they're young. So when they go out into what we so and so called the real world, they're able to handle it and able to have the resilience for whatever comes their way and be able to manage and juggle. Because as busy moms, we're managing and juggling all the time and we're in burnout and overwhelm.
Yep.
So,
What's funny saying that is all of my kids are wired differently. So my 16-year-old Ellie, she is looking at the like I don't her brain works differently. My son Jack also has a house. He had his bar mitzvah last year, and Ellie works. She only has one job now, but she had two jobs that she'd work. She will clean apartments or houses for me. She babysits. Like she is motivated by the dollar, and she wants to keep her rental property. Whereas my son Jack, who's 15, he
wants the quick fix.
I'm telling him, I'm like, you need to get out of the house and go get a job. You're old enough now. Like it's time, because he never has any money. And he's like, Mom, he's like, why would I go get a job, making 10, 11 bucks an hour when I can just sell my house when I'm 18 and I'll have, 30, $40,000. He's like, so it's kind of backfired a little bit with him that way, but he's just smart enough to realize how much the home will appreciate and whatnot. So, but he's gonna go get a job.
You're like, he's getting a job. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, you need to work. Okay. So I love this. Like, so you got out of the real estate, you sold the portfolio. What did you do in between? Like, okay, so you saw the portfolio. I know you got back into it because of your daughter. It kind of reignited the fire in the real estate world. But what were you doing in between that time of when you sold your portfolio and then you started back up again with your daughter?
Not a lot. Not a lot. I was going to do a 1031 exchange. So I bought the storage units, and then when I sold the storage units, I was going to do a 1031 exchange because
Okay, so what's a 1031 exchange? Just so people know what that is.
yep, a 1031 exchange is, so if I, again, I'll just use easy numbers. So say I sold the storage units for $1 million and I made a $400,000 profit off of it. If I go buy like kind property, so I could go buy an investment, like an apartment complex or a bigger set of storage units or something that was income producing, I could defer my capital gains on that. So I make $400,000, I go buy another property, I don't have to pay taxes on that 400,000. And you can keep, it's a great way to continue to build equity. And instead of, paying the government, 33, 40% of it, whatever it ends up being, you can keep that equity and, just reinvest.
Do you have to buy, okay, so you profit $400,000. Do you have to buy a property that is higher value than what you profited, or like to use a 1031 exchange?
So you
Or okay.
not have to, but whatever you put in your pocket, like cash wise, you're going to pay taxes on it.
Right, right. No, I understand that. But if, let's say I make $400,000, I want to buy $1 million property, I want a 1031 exchange. Am I deferring that full $400,000?
As long as you put that $400,000 into the next property that you're buying.
So I would have to do that full 400 as a down payment.
Correct.
Got
You
it.
you could take, so 400,000. Say you want to put 100,000 in your pocket and only put $300,000 down on the next deal. You're going to defer your taxes on that 300,000. The 100,000 you put into your pocket, you're going to pay taxes on that.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So if you just fully put whatever profit you make into the next property, then you can do the full 1031 exchange. Nice. Okay. So you did a 1031 exchange with your storage unit?
No, I did not. I ended up buying a life insurance policy that, like I had mentioned earlier, had a cash value because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I didn't want to just go, you know, buy something to buy something. So I paid my taxes on it, and then I bought into this life insurance policy and got that line of credit. And now that I'm, I probably went a year and a half, 2 years without buying anything. But now that I'm ready to buy, it was a good way for me to have a life insurance policy for my children. It was a good way for me to, I'll be able, this certain life insurance policy I bought, it obviously has the line of credit on it, the cash value, and then it will also pay me back once I turn a certain age, you know, and if I don't turn that certain age, then my kids are just going to be doing very well. So it'll benefit me or it'll benefit them, someone's going to get the benefit.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I think there's so many little nuggets in here too, because if you're trying to invest in real estate, there's different ways you can go about it. You can get financial, you can use, what am I looking for? Like more like get financially creative with borrowing money. You invested in a life insurance policy that you're able to take a line of credit on. And there's all these different ways that you can really go in and start in real estate. If you have a kid party and you make some money off of it, or they make some money, you can get them into the investment. And it's really impressive. And I just really love the life skills that come with real estate.
Yep.
Because like you said, it's not just like your son just wants to sell and make his money and call it a day. But your daughter is like, oh, learning all the processes that come along with owning a business and owning real estate and being able to handle it. And I think it's so beautiful. And I really want to honor you in
Aw.
being able to role model that and support your children in that way of really showing up and creating a life for them that brings them joy. So
Well,
I just really want to honor you on that.
you're very
So talk to me a little bit about when things started to change for you. You got in a really bad car accident with a friend.
uh,
And I don't want to bring us down this negative path, but I think it's really important to show how we can come out of the negative biases we have on ourselves.
yeah. So I've always been kind of like a free spirit or whatever, but after my senior year of high school, I really didn't want to go to college, but I was told I was going to college. And so I was going to go up to Iowa State. And that summer between high school and college, about 10 days before school started, I was with a friend of mine, and it was the middle of the night. We were in a fast sports car and we were on a backcountry road, and he wanted to see how fast he could go, and he could go very fast. And we ended up crashing, and he ultimately ended up passing away. He did not make it. And so it was just like, I couldn't believe that had just happened. And I walked out of the accident with not a scratch on me. I had some gasoline burns under my eye because the car flipped and whatnot, but I literally walked away without anything. And so I just remember being at the hospital, and his parents lived in Omaha. And so they had to drive in, knowing that their son had passed away. And when they showed up at the hospital, they're just the sweetest people. They came up and just gave me such a big hug and said, we're so thankful that it was him who passed away and not you, because he never would have been able to live with himself. And I just like, I was 18, and at the time I just remember thinking, if I do not do something productive with my life or live my life or whatever, I will not be honoring these people. And it just sort of changed my mentality. It didn't sort of, it really changed my mentality. And so I ended up, going up to Iowa State, and I didn't like college. I didn't want to be at college. I wanted to be by the ocean and surfing every morning. And, I just wanted to work. And so I decided just to quit college and drove out to San Diego, just moved out there. I ended up getting a job crewing on yachts, like privately owned yachts. And then, yeah, it just like, I was kind of following my heart instead of following what the smart path was, because I had no idea, once I was done with my surfing venture or whatever, like what was I going to do with my life, because I wouldn't have a college degree. And 20 years ago, you needed a college degree to get a good job. Yeah. And so
Oh,
it basically, it turned into my first job out in San Diego was waiting tables at a place called Sammy's Wood Fired Pizza. And I met this gal who used to come in every day. She's like, hey, why don't you come work for me at the staffing agency? And so I went to go work for her, and I was making like $15 an hour, which was, again, like at that time, that's the most money I had ever made. I was used to making like $9 an hour. And then I moved to a new place in San Diego, and my neighbor owned a staffing agency that placed crew onto private yachts. And so it was the same line of work. It was like everything just kind of was falling into place. So she asked me to come work for her. I went and did that. And then I saw all these job orders coming across my desk. They needed a stewardess or a deckhand or, something. And I just asked, I'm like, Liz, can I please go work on one of these yachts for just like 6 months so I know what it is I'm doing, like what I'm staffing here? And she's like, yeah, why don't you go take a short-term job? And so I my first job, we were San Diego down to Mexico, down to Costa Rica, went through the Panama Canal and then back up the other side. And I loved it so much. The owner of the yacht was from Arizona, and he developed one of the first retirement communities down there. So you can imagine how much money he made. And I used to just sit up every night and just talk to him about, how did you do this deal? What do just, it was like the connections I was making, kind of, I just was getting a different set of knowledge than I would have gotten in college. And I liked it. I enjoyed it. I was listening. I was absorbing everything. And yeah, I decided, and Ed is his name, Ed Robeson. He did not have a college degree. He just had a good idea. And so I decided I could just have good ideas someday. And I never went back to college.
It's so interesting. I feel like entrepreneurs don't, I mean, I'm not saying all entrepreneurs, but a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't go to college.
Yeah, true. And
It,
it's
because there's like a passion. There's this light there's like a fire that lights you up to it. And there's also this, like, I'm going to prove everybody wrong
yeah,
that they thought about me. There's like this, oh, you don't think I can do it? Watch me.
yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Right? Watch. I'm gonna have 6 kids and be a very successful business owner. I'm gonna do it. And it's empowering,
It is.
right? And but the building part, and we didn't really talk about that. So I'm in the process of building my coaching business, and it's a lot, and it's a lot of hours, and it's a lot of energy, and with no money, right? So you're doing all this work, and you feel like, at least for me, and I don't know if this resonates with you, but you're doing this work, you're growing, you're the friends that you have aren't really getting it where you are, because they're partying, or maybe they're staying the same, and maybe they're not growing. So you're in a different space of growth and education, and you're learning, and you're consuming the content, and you're getting educated, and you're meeting the people, and you're traveling the world, and you're trying to absorb all this information, but you're not quite in that success category where you can be with that new group of friends who are maybe the multimillionaires, or whatever success looks like for you. So you're just in this very lonely place, because you don't fit in with your old friends, but you're not at the success to fit in the new friends yet. And that's kind of where I am right now. It's like, okay, like, here I am trying to build. But then what I did here was, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get there, as long as you get there. And I love this, because my gap feels so big right now of, okay, how do I get from, where I am to where I want to be? But just little increments, little 1% efforts every single day is
Yep.
going to add up. So in 5 years from now, and 5 years from now for your kids, they're going to be so much further along, because they're putting in the effort, or because I'm putting in the effort, and you're just shifting those 1% to be 1% better every single day. You're going to get there. So anyone who's listening, who's feeling stuck, or like, I can't buy real estate, I can't do this, I can't do that, it's whatever you're telling yourself, that's what's going to happen. You have to believe it's possible. And when your friend passed away and you got to live, you knew, wait, now I have possibility in my life. Who am I going to live for? I'm going to live for myself. I'm going to make him proud. I'm going to show up. I'm going to do everything I can to live my life to the fullest. And it is just such an honor to be able to recognize that you're able to do that and really persevere. And I know you have this love for travel. You worked on the yachts. You met some impressive people, and now I know you mentioned you were going to bring your daughter to Indonesia.
Yes. So yes, my kids all have the travel bug, which, you know, I hope that if they take one thing away, I hope that they realize that it's a big world out there and they should go see it all. So yeah, I've taken, this is my 16-year-old daughter. I took all my daughters over to Paris last April on just a little girls trip. And that was super fun. I took them to like Israel and Egypt. I took my son and my daughter who had a bar and bat mitzvah over there, just, as a gift to them. And then my daughter just told me, my 16-year-old last summer, she's like, Mom, I want to go teach English to children that don't know how to speak it. And I'm thinking, okay. And so I just didn't think she would follow through with it. And I said, if you can find the program, I will help you get there so you can go do it. And so next day she she comes downstairs with all this information she had printed out, and she found Indonesia to go to Bali, and it was a program. She knew how much it cost, all that stuff. And I said, there's first of all, there's no way I'm going to let her go to Indonesia by herself. But I said, I'll go over there with you. You're going to have to buy your own plane ticket. You're going to have to, get into the program. So get a plane ticket. She learned how to mine and get a plane ticket. She learned how to, register herself for this stuff. I'm having her figure out how to get from the airport to where we're going and the logistics of everything. And then I'm going to go travel while she's working. My husband's going to go over with me too. But it's like, I don't want the world to be a scary place for them. I want them to have the confidence of, I can rock up in a country where they really don't speak English. Like it's not like, going over to Paris where a lot of people speak English. Like you're going to a third world country, and I want them to know how to get through an airport and find their gate, and just little things like that. So yeah, we're gonna go over to Indonesia. We leave here in two weeks to the day. Spend a couple weeks over there, and yeah. So
I love that. How long is this program?
her program is 10 days.
Okay. Okay. I
Yep.
love that. I mean, what a valuable, I mean, you're such an amazing mom. Like I I just love everything you're doing and everything you're showing up for. And I want to be like you. And I hope to inspire my son to travel and to learn the life skills and to even learn some entrepreneurship, even if they don't want to be an entrepreneur, you learn the skills to create this in your life. And again, I'm going to say it again, just the more resilient you can be, the happier you're going to be. And I know as moms, we want our kids to be happy. And the way you do that is through creating resilience for them. So Jill, where can people find you if they want to connect with you, if they want any tips, they want any advice on real estate or traveling or whatever is lighting you up, where can people find you?
People are always welcome to call me. Do you want me to give my cell phone number?
I'll, I'll put her phone number in the show notes.
Okay. So people are always welcome to call me. I have started a property management company called Best Property Management, and they can log on to the website if they'd like. That's www.bpmdsm, so like Best Property Management Des Moines.com. And my email's on there. They can reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook. Jill Sarcone is all you got to type in, and yeah, you can just reach out to me. I love helping people get into deals. So I would be more than happy to help anybody.
I think it's great. I'm so excited. And you're also really quickly before we close off, you're starting another business, right? Creating a for midterm rentals. Basically. Is that right? And want to create a platform for people who are traveling for short term and finding them housing.
Yeah, short-term housing, for like an Airbnb, like a vacation, that's really easy to find. But for people that are traveling for work that want a little more, just something a little bit different, there's really only one or two platforms out there right now that do that. And so looking to basically start a company that places people into short-term housing without short-term housing that's fully furnished, that allows them to have the flexibility with their job. They might have a 12-week job that only lasts 9 weeks, and so they need landlords that are flexible with them, on that time frame. Some of these people want to have a whole house. Some of these people only want to rent one room. They're just are all different price points. And so yeah, just trying to put that platform together right now.
Yeah, I love creating opportunities for other people. It feels so good inside, right? You're like, oh, I helped you create an opportunity. And I don't know, there's just so much, those kind of things light me up. And it sounds like it lights you up as well. So if you could give one tip, one takeaway for our listeners, something they can do in their life to create more joy, what would that be?
I would say take the trip. like figure out a way. I listen to so many people, and take the trip doesn't necessarily have to mean traveling. It can mean with your business venture, or with, just like go on the experience and do it. I've listened to so many people, talk about what they want to do. And if they spent half as much time just doing it, they'd be successful instead of just talking about it. Do it.
Right. It's like, imagine if all that time you spent talking about it, actually doing it, how much more fulfillment you would have in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of them work out and some of them don't, but it's all, you learn from everything and just do it.
Yep. We read this book, sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. And
Yeah.
it is so valuable in life, right? Like failure is not failure. Failure is knowledge. Failure is empowerment. And it's just keep doing it, keep throwing mud on the wall, and you will find your way, and you will find what sticks and create the life of your dreams.
100%.
Well, thank you so much, Jill. It has been such a wonderful conversation. I love everything you shared, and I can't wait to connect with you again.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today and being a part of our journey towards redefining success and creating an abundant life. If today's episode inspired you, we have a special gift for our listeners. If you love the podcast, consider leaving us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. As a token of our gratitude, we're offering an exclusive Rise and Thrive checklist designed to help you create a thriving morning. Here's how you can claim it. Simply take a screenshot of your review and send it to us at hello@carynm.com. That's hello@CARYNM.com. Once we receive your screenshot, we'll send you the Rise and Thrive checklist straight to your inbox. Remember, your reviews help us keep the podcast going and reach more listeners who are on their path and redefining their life. So your support means the world to us. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and dare to redefine your life in extraordinary ways. This is Caryn Meininger, wishing you well and lots of love.